Aloha, nerds, and welcome back to the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction, where I watch things and react from the gut. And I am here today to talk about the manly, the masculine, the superheroic RRR. Rise, Roar, and Revolt. Now available on Netflix. Okay, RRR. Spoiler free, my thoughts on RRR currently available on Netflix. Wow. RRR was written and directed by S.S. Rajamouli. I hope I'm getting your name right. And stars. Nope, where did I put that note? Ah, here's the note. And stars. That's the cinematographer. No, dang. Where are you? And stars Ram Sharan as Raju and N.T. Rama Rao Jr. as Beam. In RRR, Raju is fire and Beam is water. And together they are wild stallions. Yeah. No, this movie's awesome. So I saw the trailer for this movie, I don't know, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, something like that. Not too long before it came out in theaters. And it takes place in India in the colonial times. They have technology, they have guns, all that stuff, but this is still not the modern society we live in today. It's kind of like the Tarzan time period, and that I say Tarzan because that's going to come up in my review for this movie. Essentially, what we have is a child is abducted by a high-ranking general and his wife as they're on a journey exploring the sort of the more tribal people of India, and they end up taking the daughter of this little tribe, and a hero is dispatched to go get her back. And that seems simple enough, but the storytelling is very good. Really great writing, really great casting, really great directing. This movie overall is kind of cheesy, but what you don't expect if you're just watching this movie not knowing the trailer or anything like that, the trailer sets up these two guys who are supposed to come head to head and go to battle in this movie. And in that essence, we get a little Batman v Superman the way it should have been done kind of scenario going on here. But essentially, the story actually starts off with whoever's going to be the opponent, whoever's going to be the bad guy, the one side of the two guys fighting, and we're seeing this Indian officer, but working for uh, the British military, and he takes on an entire mob in order to arrest one guy who threw a rock at this facility that's all gated and guarded. But this guy throws a rock and smashes a picture of I think it's the Majesty or whoever it is, and the picture breaks and all this stuff. So this officer goes off and just tears up the mob to get the guy. I can't describe. It's such an epic sequence because there's a little bit of this. You don't mess with the Zohan, where you had Adam Sandler's Zohan, who's clearly a superhuman doing superhuman stuff, but he's also this Israeli hero or whatever. And on the other side, you have I forget this man's name, Barton Fink. On the other side, you have Barton Fink playing the Palestinian side, and he's also a superhero. And both of these guys are just superhuman. So essentially, our antagonist, Raju, is this officer. He takes on this mob, and he literally drags an entire group of people. I'm not talking about like 6 or 7 people. I mean like there's 30 people grabbing at him, and he pulls them all forward and starts beating them away from him with superhuman strength. People go flying when this guy kicks people. It's like, what? Like it starts off very emotional with the kidnapping of the girl, and then we're just into this amazing one man versus an ocean of people beating them all up. It's just such an incredible sequence. And then the very next scene is our hero, the shepherd of the village, Beam, and he's introduced with this beautiful shot where we're on this lake where we see the forest, and we're actually upside down, and the camera's moving and turns around and introduces manly man, shirtless man of the tribe. He has no shirt. He is just manly. And he's pouring blood on his head. And he's trying to attract a wolf. And he gets chased by the wolf, and he seems to be leading the wolf somewhere. But then a freaking tiger comes after him, and the tiger swats away the wolf, and then the tiger starts chasing him. And then you get another really cool sequence of now we're running through the woods, and it's man versus tiger. Before it was man versus society, now it's man versus tiger. And it's just about sheer strength, speed, and cunning. And they end up trapping the tiger in this net trap, but it becomes like the tiger is so strong, the net was not meant for it. And it comes down to these two ropes attached to a stake in the ground that snap. And Mr. Beam grabs one rope on one side and the other rope on the other side and flexes his beefy man cake muscles. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, flexing. See that muscle? Yeah. Flexing beefcake muscles, bro. Just flexing them muscles. Yeah, Randy Savage, what you gonna say? It's Beam, Randy Savage. He's ready for you, Randy. And so, yeah, we get, and the tiger still manages to snap close and get close to him, but and you seeing this guy take on the tiger, even though it's a CGI tiger, and the effects are really good in this movie. There's still the sense that they're CG, but there's just the quality of it, the art of it is so natural and beautiful. And the performance of the guy, like he's really acting like he's fighting a tiger. It seems like it's plausible that this man is clearly super strong. Obviously, he's got superhuman strength, just like our antagonist does. And damn, just the performance of it and the feeling of it is so visceral and real, even though it's a hyper fantasy type of sequence. It just gets you right in. This movie just starts off with, if for action fans, this movie just starts off with action. It is such a great time you're just introduced to these characters doing the coolest stuff you've ever seen on camera. And it's just the start of the movie. The movie just gets better from there on out. What's beautiful is it does tell a nice story, because ultimately our hero goes undercover as a Muslim, walking around society pretending to be a normal person, and he's a good mechanic, so he's not devoid of knowing society, he's just a tribal person. And so he goes undercover in this society trying to figure out where the girl is. And meanwhile, our antagonist, the officer, he's the one, because of his show of strength before, he is recommended, and he asserts himself for this mission to capture whatever this shepherd is who's coming in looking for this girl, because it is given as a warning from the tribe that this police representative of that area has come and said, you need to return the girl. You need to return her now, because a protector is coming to pick her up. And let's just say you don't want to mess with this guy. And the English are like, you're going to take out the empire. And the dude is just like, maybe. And then the guys go, maybe. He says, what, dude? Okay, let's get this guy. Fuck this. And so, yeah, our antagonist asserts himself hearing about this mission, and is also recommended by the general who is overseeing him. And what's nice is we have this small story that's told only visually, that the officer simply wants to get a higher ranking. He wants to rise up in the ranks. And we don't know his backstory, and that's the best part. This movie is like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that. And we don't know that much about either our hero or villain, but that's okay, because we're just seeing them do what they do. And we just have this what seems to be a small little arc, which is totally fine. Of this young officer wants to rise in the ranks. He has some sense of self pride and some intense sense of duty. Because what was amazing about his mob fighting introduction is after he whoops around this mob, he does get the guy, and he comes back into the compound, and he's all beat up. But all he does is throw some water on his face, turn around about face, and stand attention, ready for the mob to come back again. And he completely in form, even though he's bleeding all over his face, he's all beat up, he limped in there, dragging his foot. But that's his character. That he is, no matter how much pain he's in, he's gonna keep coming, and he's ready to do what he's got to do. And that is what scares the mob. So that being this guy's introduction is what leads to him being recommended to hunt our hero. But this ironic twist happens. So I am spoiling like the opening of the movie, but this is only the introduction of the movie. There's 40 minutes of movie before the title RRR appears. We see RRR and some R's, but we are just being introduced to these characters in the first 40 minutes. But this crazy event happens where both hero and villain end up saving a child, and they become buddies. And that them becoming buddies is the unexpected turn of this movie, where we're watching them be friends for a while, but you know this conflict is coming. And it's just, the movie is so well done. It's got emotional stakes, great, beautiful storytelling, beautiful art. I really want to shout out to the production design and costumes and cinematography. I did do a little bit of IMDbing, and the let's see, where are you? Our first note. The first note that was not what I was looking for. Cinematographer KK Senthil Kumar. The cinematography of this movie is fantastic. So many beautiful. Although I've already admitted, this movie is a bit cheesy at points. It's a bit too much at points, but it's not in the way of being a bad movie. I think there's a lot of bad movies that are cheesy, and it does not work for the movie. It does not benefit the movie, that aspect. But in this case, the cheesiness and the hyper realism helps you just kind of appreciate the story and enjoy the entertainment at the same time, because it's an intensely emotional story. Our hero personally knows the girl that's been kidnapped. This is his tribe. This is his people. He has this very deep emotional need to save this person, like right off the bat. And although we don't know his backstory at the beginning of the movie, our villain has a deep emotional need that he is clearly going after. His sense of duty. There is something going on with this guy. But I have to comment, even in the shots after he has beaten the mob and turned and he's ready to go for more, he's standing and holding the line. Even in that moment, you're seeing him look at all the beaten up people that he had to beat up to arrest that one guy. And you're not necessarily getting a reaction, but you know that he's thinking about it just from these shots. I gotta comment that the storytelling of this movie is so good. It's visual, and even if it's so visual that you could describe, like me describing the visual, tells you about this guy that he's clearly has a due sense of duty, but you know he's having some kind of internal reaction to the suffering of the people that he had to hurt. And even when he's fighting that mob, some of them had called him a traitor. You know, he's an Indian, but in the British military uniform fighting his own people. Um, so you know that there's some sense of an inner conflict, and the story in the first half is making you think it's going one particular way. And I don't want to give away what that way is. Well, yeah, I mean, you already sense that. Is he going to become a rebel? Because the officer who sees him do that, his superior officer, one of his fellow officers comes up and says, "Wow, that mob was really scary," and the officer is just like, "I'm more scared of him. You know, he's more scared of his own guy." Well, that's just more of this build up. And I'd say what this movie has that's amazing is that sense of buildup. What Tim Geddes calls in the kind of funny in reviews and podcasts, the hype moments that are supposed to be hype are hype. I, I always understood Tim when he said this, but I never understood it as much as this movie. I kind of take American movies for granted. I think they're very hollow for the most part. I think American movies nowadays have become this very hollow, sad, pretend representation of America. That's, at the end of the day, not really what the regular American experience is from day to day. Um, it's just this idyllic vision that's more of a commercial for America than it is actually about America. I think movies made by Americans used to be about America and show you what it actually looked like and felt like to be here. Even the movie Coming to America, made by Eddie Murphy and crew, directed by John Landis, even that, it shows homeless people. It shows the struggle of trying to live on a paycheck to paycheck through the perspective of someone who doesn't actually have to worry about it, so you can have the comedy. Uh, but it also shows all the different perspectives about it and how people kind of deal with capitalism and living in this weird society. Uh, that, but that is a shared conflict for Akeem in that movie. That he himself feels weird that he's just being given some woman who's supposed to love him automatically, and that clash of cultures and kind of meeting in the middle. There's a sense of that because of this friendship that develops between. And now I'm talking about RRR again. There's a sense of that culture clash when we get what seems to be like a British raised person from India, or raised under this type of culture. It seems like that at first, or at least he's comfortable with it. He's embedded in it. He's working with them. He's the traitor. What seems like that type of person with Raju, he's got many more layers going on beneath that appearance, but we get that sense when he's hanging out with Beam, who goes under the name Akhtar. I believe he's playing a Sufi Muslim. I think that because he wears all white. I think that's correct. I may be wrong. Please let me know in the comments. If you have knowledge of the cultures, please share that in the comments. I think that would be way more interesting than who gives a crap if this is a bad podcast. Who cares what I have to say? Uh, if you got some knowledge about this movie or about the religions herein, any culture stuff, please share it in the comments so that people can read that and actually be informed and not just go off of stupid crap that I say. Anyway, I think he's playing a Sufi Muslim, but you see so many times there's these things and these phrases and some language that Beam doesn't understand, both because he is not he does not know English, but also he's from this tribe. He may be able to work around in the Indian culture and all that, but and more modern looking society, but he's the dude who hunts animals and hangs out in the bush, man. He's just one of those dudes. So you see these quiet little moments where Raju is kind of having to teach him how to be a guy in the 20th century. It's like, here, this is how you kind of do it, bro. Like, oh, you want to meet a girl? Just go up and do this, da 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 da. He has that, and Raju, let me tell you, is one handsome fucking man. He is one handsome man. He's like the handsome man of the movie. The movie makes a point to acknowledge that later on in the movie. Not that Beam is not attractive and handsome in his own way, but damn, like when you see Raju, like what the hell, bro? Like you look like some kind of model dude, just like, you know what I mean? Like, wow, look at me. I look like a guy who goes and sees Randy Savage rip people in half and send them home crying to mommy. Yeah, yeah, but I'm not. I'm a nerd. Anyway, uh, but yeah, so seeing that kind of develop between them is one of the things that bonds them is Raju teaching Beam how to kind of become a part of society and how to build your life in society. Oh, you want some girl? This is how you do it. This is how you be. It's kind of this coming of age, you know, welcome to a new part of your life kind of part of the movie that's really fun and keeps the movie light. All the while, Raju in in officer mode is going out there and he's trying to find the the protector of the village that's supposed to come and take the girl back by whatever means necessary. He's trying to find that guy, not knowing that that is his friend. And also, Beam does not know Raju is an officer because he's going undercover. So that's the whole part of this story. We have this undercover officer story. We're getting the 21 Jump Street plot here. We got so many things going into this movie because we got freaking don't mess with the Zohan villain and hero with the 21 Jump Street plot and amazing amazing action sequences that would make Zack Snyder cream his pants. I think the action in this movie is incredible. When Raju and Beam meet, it's over saving some little boy, but they concoct this very contrived, wild stunt where Raju, where Beam needs to get on a motorcycle and get up to this bridge, and we got Raju on a horse, and there's a rope, and they're both gonna ride at each other, take the rope, and jump on opposite sides of the bridge, while one flings down and pulls the boy out from the circle of fire, and the other uh, and the other is holding a flag. He holds up, I assume it's an Indian flag, because it's amazing. It's beautiful and it's amazing. And swipes it with water, and you don't know where this is going. You're like, who, why, how, who would assume that this was your plan here? Because in the trailer, it looks like they're facing off against each other, but in the movie, you're like, oh, this is a team up. This is a Marvel team up right now. Hulk is teaming up with Spider-Man. This is awesome. Um, yeah, and they save the boy, and I'm not saying more than that. You got to watch the movie to see what the hell the flag was about. But they save the boy and become best friends right then, and it's that 21 Jump Street Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? And this movie has action. It has, like I described, how do you meet a girl? It has romance. It has coming of age story, bro story. This movie has every single type of story and storyline and plot line that really makes a movie watchable. In terms of just being a functional film, it's got all the stuff that makes a movie commercial and watchable, and that's literally just the first half of the movie has all of that, the stuff that you need. And the second half pays off all these very violent scenarios that appear here and there in the movie. So, like I said, just the beating up of the mob is very intense, but the movie opens with violence. The very opening, when the girl is kidnapped, has the mom smacked against the head with a piece of wood with a tree branch, but it's all frayed and there's blood and it's awful. The movie starts off with that kind of level of violence, but it has it peppered here and there throughout the movie in the first half, so it's there and that it's has the potential of being worse than that, which is good filmmaking. That's what you should be doing in filmmaking. You don't blow your wad in the opening and then wonder why no one likes the end of the movie. The type of violence and the level of violence is hinted at throughout this movie. That when we get to the second half, which is very much like Django Unchained and Tarzan, the Disney cartoon version from the 90s. If you merge those two, that is the second half of of RRR, because our two guys do eventually figure things out. That's the promise of the movie. We're already promised that they're gonna fight each other, but then they become friends, not knowing that the other is what the other is, because they're both technically undercover, hiding their identities. So then that's also the super hero level to it. So it's got so many levels that it is identifying. I think the problem with Hollywood movies is that they pay attention to the incorrect numbers. They look at all the numbers like action scene, good. Twists and turns, good. You know? But in this movie, is more the concoction of what gets people. What actually gets people to enjoy the movie. Ridiculous action, really good storylines that do have twists and turns, but they're paying attention to storylines. Because the very fact that we have this superhero Spider-Man and Green Goblin relationship, neither one knows the other is actually their enemy, but they're becoming friends. We get this great development. It's also, again, how Batman v Superman should have been, which is you have to see these people team up and have that inner conflict always brewing underneath, where one person is doing, where both people are doing something that the other one doesn't know, or has a mission that the other person is not going to ultimately agree with. And that clash has to happen at some point. It's going to happen. It's a promised scenario. And the fact that these two are pretty much superhuman. One guy can fight a tiger no problem with his bare hands, and the other guy can fight an entire mob of people with his bare hands and whatever is around him. So the incredible storytelling, how engaging it is, and the emotional aspects of it. It's that push and pull you want out of a movie that is also a blockbuster movie. And there's singing sequences and dance sequences, and it's just a full movie like we used to get, like referencing Coming to America again. Back in the 80s and 90s and before that, it was not unusual for an American movie to have suddenly a dance number and a singing number. I think if you look at the difference between La La Land and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the difference is these awkward transitions into the music. Modern movies struggle so hard with how the music comes into these sequences, and that is a problem with Hollywood and the filmmakers therein. Time. Time is needed, a pause, a sense of music or a lack of music at the correct time. This is an instinctual thing you have to feel, but you also have to feel it and plan it into your shoot and how you shoot it. And it has to hit. And in some part of you, when it's not hitting, and you have to trust that part of you and challenge yourself and say, is this working? I think what's great about this movie is although it has musical sequences and dancing out of nowhere, the filmmaking knows how to present itself as a show. The very fact that we have these RR logos appearing in the very first 40 minutes, the RR logo appears multiple times, but it breaks up the opening. The first R logo is the story, and the R logo remains inside story. That's our first title, and that's the introduction of the premise where this young mother watches her daughter get kidnapped, and she tries to save her and gets smacked in the head with a piece of wood. And the next R is fire, where we're introduced to the antagonist, or at the very least, he appears to be an antagonist, the Indian officer Raju, and him fighting off the mob. And the next R is is water with the R at the end. So we have all of this sense of presentation that tells the mind this is a show. Things are going to happen that are a little bit fantastic and a little bit bizarre and a little far. Whereas American movies are trying so hard to be cool and they're trying so hard to be the last great filmmaker, ultimately they don't achieve either thing. Because they're not listening to this. You gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to the sound. Like in Batman Begins, he pulls that little remote control out of his boot and then turns on and puts it next to his head, and then he waits and he times, and then he knows when to hit the button so that the bats come at the correct moment. You have to have that kind of heart, and you have to have that patience, and you have to have that trust in your own instinct and the palate taste to detect when it's right for these moments to occur. And when I say Disney Tarzan, that stuff starts right up front. When they save that boy and become best friends, a logo appears of their hands holding each other, like the Greek, like the Greek paintings on vases, where you the hero moment, and we get them. That's what leads to our main RR. But that tells you a lot about what this movie is. This is a cheesy movie, but that starts off our first musical sequence where they're not singing, but it's basically a music video of these two bonding as best friends. And we get all these events of them doing things and becoming best buddies and all this stuff. And it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's nice to watch a movie and we don't cut to, you know, oh, 10 weeks later. Oh man, how we became friends over all those things all the time and stuff. Man, I'm so glad stuff happened off camera. This is just storytelling, no dialogue. They're bonding. They're hanging out on hills. They're working out together. They're shooting the shit over food. You know what I mean? This is great. This is storytelling. This is what it's all about. So, wow. Does that not look terrible? That just looks like a creep. Or a guy who spends way too much time in the sun and really needs to get inside, because you're going to sunburn, bro. It looks like either one of those, and neither of those is necessarily good. Here I am, showing the muscles like beam, yeah. But yeah, the fact that we can go into this sort of music video sequence and it doesn't feel strange, because the movie takes the time to let the music get you there. The visuals take the time to let you understand the story, and the visuals can be described in as few words possible to get you to understand what's going on. That's great storytelling. That's what American cinema has lacked for the last 15 years. We don't know what happened to it. Got chewed up by the Hollywood machine, or people just stopped doing their homework and just thought because they watched the last movie, they know what's happening in the next movie, and we lost that sense of feeling like it's real life and feeling like people can be people on screen. One of the effective aspects of the movie Alien is one of these early bonding scenes when all these guys in the spaceship, they're all laying down in hypersleep, and then a timer goes off, and we get that amazing visual of the pods that they're in opening, and slowly the camera does, the visuals dissolve as we see each person wake up and get up, and we see them get themselves together, get clothed, they meet around a table, and they just start shooting the shit and talking and having a good time. And you kind of get the sense that they figured out that they've been woken up a little too early because they're supposed to be put on this side mission, and they immediately start talking about, hey, but are we getting paid more for this? We should get paid more for this. So they're human concerns and the plot for them. What will motivate them to be a part of this storyline, as opposed to just not doing anything and reacting like a normal person. Everyone thinks they're going to get paid, but we see it in the course of a natural sounding conversation between people who clearly work together. Things like that, a little bit of montage and a little bit of just seemingly regular hanging out gets a lot across on screen. And that is what we get in this movie. We get just pure storytelling, where the dialogue is not expected to carry the weight of 6 months of exposition. This just doesn't work. That does not work. It costs nothing to have a shot of two people standing next to each other laughing and fist bumping. It costs nothing. It costs everything to have a shitty piece of dialogue that no one wants to listen to. And that is the bottom line. I think, people have gotten in over their heads with this self-importance when it comes to making movies. There's a self-importance or a self-fear that is it's holding back what movies can be. And this movie doesn't have that fear. There's a sense in this movie that the people who made it love movies. And I totally feel this is how BVS should have been. Where they should have been buddies. Like, there's no reason for them not to be. They're doing the same thing. And a natural conflict should meet that makes them have a conflict. And a promised conflict, because one is more brutal than the other, but the other has a very valid reason not to be brutal. Despite how vicious and animal-like Beam can be, we know he's capable of being. He is the most gentle character. He is the kindest to everyone. And he's also the most humble. And he does have fear, and he does have feelings he's willing to express. Whereas on the other side, Raju is aggressive, and he knows how to take charge, and he knows how to get scenarios to occur at the pace that he wants them to occur. He's a man in charge of himself and in control of scenarios around him, but he has self-respect and real confidence and knows what he wants and how to get it, and he just does it, and he doesn't worry about the rest. And that is his character. And him, like I said, he's the handsome guy. It was funny. I was watching this with my sister, her boyfriend, and my roomie, and there's a scene where handsome Raju just takes a bunch of nails out of someone's like shop area. He just grabs a handful of nails and walks away. And, and my nerd brother goes, uh, "Wow, just handsome people just do whatever they want in movies. In every movie, they just always do whatever they want, huh? And get away with it." And it's like, yeah, that's true. Even in this movie, that happens. But he takes the nails in order to pop some tires and enable a conversation for our hero. I don't want to spoil it because it's a very nice scene. Um, this is me basically spoiling the first 40 minutes of the movie so that you can please, for the love of God, watch this movie. It's so good. Uh, and the way it's done is so good. The time taken for everything allows it to be experienced and to be enjoyed. The fact that we do get the villain story in the second half of the movie. This is a 2.5 hour movie. The first 90 minutes is about our hero, and we as an audience and the hero do not really know the story of this man. We the audience know just enough to have the fear of, oh no, this friendship will have to end, or at least be challenged. And how is that going to come out? How is that going to come about? What's going to happen? Much like Romeo and Juliet, it's starting off with knowing that these two lovers are going to kill each other or kill themselves because they can't be together. We know that, but how does that happen? That what's it called? Dramatic suspense or whatever it's called. There's a name for that, where the audience knows something that the characters don't as they experience it. That is the best push and pull of the first half of the movie, and then even better is the conflict that comes after that, when hero versus villain becomes what the movie's about. But we learn the villain's story, and it's actually quite sympathetic, and it's beautiful. It's just as beautiful as the hero story. It's just as beautiful as the man himself. But really, this is an aspect of this movie. We all know it. Everyone knows. Like, oh, here's the handsome friend, and here's the more schlubby looking guy. Because in his Muslim outfit, Beam comes out with these characteristics that are not as manly as the introduction of him in this movie. So he really looks like the pudgy dork next to the handsome guy, and the movie goes with that, and that's the story. That's the movie happening. It's so good. It's just so good. But essentially, this is a wingman story because handsome guy becomes the wingman for Beam to hook up with this very beautiful woman. And there's a great dance sequence where they're both invited to a party, and this English guy who's trying to go out with the girl that Beam is there with, she invited him. He's trying to dance with her, and she's not interested. She wants to dance with Beam, and she and you see this English guy essentially trip Beam during the dance and embarrass him and humiliate him and try to tell him how he doesn't know the way of dancing, because he just doesn't know the English ways of dancing. But during that sequence, no, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but during that sequence, our handsome Raju starts drumming, and he drums a beat that he knows Beam will know, and it's an Indian dance, and he just gets a drummer to continue his beat, and then they get out there and they start dancing, and they show the English guy a dance that he does not know, and he cannot keep up with, and all the ladies are are like adoring handsome Raju, and they follow. It's Jenny, our hero's girlfriend, who who pushes the bully away and says, "Let them dance, let them dance," and all the ladies follow up and take her side and keep the dudes away, so that our villain and hero, who don't know their villain and hero, can do a whole dance number across the entire party. And it's a total music video. There's location changes that only make sense in a music video as they're dancing and singing. And they're singing and they're off sync, and it's so much fun and it's amazing. And you're seeing all these little conflicts are happening in this dance off, and that just keeping the story alive while we're having an epic dance number is part of the strengths of how good this movie is, that the story is alive and an important aspect of every single sequence. In fact, this misconception that I think definitely American audiences are coming around to now, but there's a misconception that action is just there for spectacle, like a firework. But people don't consider that the action is still an aspect of the storytelling. It still tells something about the story. Although, yes, the mob battle sequence is an epic sequence, there is an emotional drive of this man that's being established. Storytelling through action is an aspect that I get into on this show. It will be its own mini podcast at some point, but the story is told through the action, where we see the need of Raju to complete his duty when he beats that mob. That's the point of that action scene. And the when it comes to Beam's introduction when he fights the tiger, uh, although you can't tell it from the action scene itself, once he defeats the tiger, he knocks it out with some powder that was prepared essentially for that wolf that got scared away anyway. But when he stops the tiger, he doesn't kill him. Notice neither hero or villain kills anybody, but they do harm a lot of people. He doesn't kill him, but he does take him in his arms when the tiger, having become knocked out, just kind of collapses, and he holds him up and he grabs him by the head and with a level of guilt says, "Forgive me, my brother. I have taken you for my purpose." And he feels bad for harming the animal and kidnapping the animal. He doesn't feel right for what he's doing, which is in direct contrast to our opening, where our villains, Ray Stevenson from The Punisher, and what's her name? And Allison Scott, who played the Nazi traitor in the last in the Last Crusade. They're the ones who are. He's the general and she's his wife. They're the ones who kidnap the girl at the beginning. If frickin' Punisher Warzone Punisher, kidnaps the little girl. But wow, what was I saying? But when they take the little girl, they are happy. They have no problem taking a human as if it was an animal, as if it was a thing. There's the superior mentality that all other things are things other than them. And that is not the philosophy of Beam. And that is not the philosophy of Raju either. Uh, but that character moment of him feeling guilt toward the lion represents his character. It establishes his character. But what we don't know yet is that there's a reason he caught that lion. And that is not revealed until the end of the second half of the movie. It's awesome. This movie's so good. We get the storytelling through action is 100% here, where the action is not there just to wow you, but it is there to create connections. And again, like I said, the amazing sequence of horse versus motorcycle and then Spider-Man swing to save the boy, that's our heroes meeting and bonding. Although it is spectacular and it is blockbuster and it is unnecessary, the purpose of the action scene is to establish the shared values of both men, that both are willing to save this random boy who has nothing to do with their missions, even though they seem to have valid missions on both sides. Whether one is more questionable than the other, whether one has more questionable methods than the other, Either way, the point of that action scene is to bond these two people. So every single action scene has a function in the movie, and even dance could be considered an action sequence. Guillermo del Toro, when he was making Blade 2, talked about the action sequences as if they were dance numbers, as if action, like comedy is drama in disguise, action is dance in disguise, was basically Del Toro's philosophy toward that movie, where all of those action scenes had an element in the character's development or in some way the thematic values of the movie. And that is absolutely what's going on here, where water and fire are represented in the beginning of the movie, and it is how they both work together and how they clash with each other. That's what the movie's about on a thematic level. And the theme is very straightforward. They're not hiding anything. Everything is basically told to you as the movie goes, in at times a very cheesy way, but it just helps the story just make sense and work. You know what I mean? They're not worried about you, the audience, having to have this brain twister where you have to figure everything out. They're more concerned about, do you feel and believe the story as it's happening? And does the spectacle hit because the action actually represents the character? You know, we take for granted things in this life, and art is one of them. Art is a thing, is a conceptual thing that we take for granted. But art is here to teach us something about ourselves and to teach us how to be in the world. In essence, what storytelling through action is for is to tell you the theme of the movie. That our hero only uses violence to accomplish a mission that does not hurt people or in some way prevents the suffering of people or in some way represents their duty for society or for their family or for themselves. And the villain represents how that the villain's behavior ultimately is shameful and bad for society. That is typically what the action scenes represent. Some kind of reflection on what society deems as good versus bad. Uh, but the spectacle is there for the audience to enjoy the action. For if action was always serious and real, you might still get those themes and you might feel very emotionally affected. But you might not watch the movie again because you'd be like, oh, that was way too sad. That was way too dark. I'm never watching that again. Ever. No way. The spectacle is there to keep you watching and tell your friends to watch it too. It's such a good time. Oh my God, it's such a good time. The dance is so good. The action is so good. Oh my God. You know, but the dance also establishes character. When Jenny is looking out for Beam, and and when Raju is looking out for Beam, this is the family and the friends are coming together to support the hero. That's the story taking its shape. That's these characters having a situation to bond over and have a reason to value each other, so that when the clash comes later, when hero and villain recognize each other and must fight each other in order to accomplish their respective goals, and Jenny is caught in the middle, and you understand that there's consequences to everything these people have chosen to do. But also, you understand why they will make decisions later. Will they make amends, or will they ultimately just duke it out and have it away with each other? You know, and how they get to that decision is all built on these sequences in the beginning of the movie, because these sequences make them all realize, hey, each one of us is a good person who looks out for the other. So we have to take that into account with how we fight each other. And it makes their fight sequences with each other very emotional and very different, and not what you expect, especially after most of the movie is pretty fierce and pretty focused and pretty clear what the black and white good and bad is, or white and black, however you want to see the good and the bad. Because the white is the bad in this one. The white is definitely the bad. Bloody English. Stop being naughty in the past and the present if you can. Please, please. I'll try to. But yeah, so it's just this movie's a blast. This movie is fantastic. This I basically spoiled as much as I could without spoiling everything. There's just so much in this movie that is so good. It's so worth talking about, and the way it's made, how it uses true cinema and is a true film in every aspect of the word, because it does not waste a minute of your time. For how long this movie is, it doesn't waste a minute of your time. It's always entertaining or emotional or in some way kind of powerful in what it has to say. And I think you're all gonna have a great time. I haven't had a time this good since both Kung Fu Hustle and The Dark Knight. I think, The Dark Knight is the very opposite of this movie. It's very real. It's very dry. The action is not too spectacular, even though it is fantastic. But the action hits you and it has impact. But also, Kung Fu Hustle was such a cartoonish, wild movie, and was such a sensation at the time that everybody who watched it, there was just this hum of an energy afterward. I think this movie does both. It literally pulls both movies and the experience of them together with fantastic, deep, emotional storytelling, with the incredible animation style. I mean, sort of fantasy anime style, and fearless kind of thematics ruling the drive of the movie, and just pure fantasy with no fear of is the audience going to not like this? You know what I mean? Literally, I'm watching this movie as I talk about it because it's so good. I had to watch it. This is my third time watching it. The first time I only saw half. The second time I saw the whole thing, and this time around I'm catching all the little details I didn't notice the first two times. This movie can be watched so many times. You can tell they've really worked hard on it. Really wanted it to hit home on every level possible. This is a fantastic movie. You've got to watch it. Forget what about the subtitles. If you just need someone to describe it to you as it happens, watch this movie. Enjoy this movie, because it's one of those movies that only comes around every now and then. Very few movies are this spectacular and awesome. Uh, I have, yeah, I'm putting this up there with Dark Knight and Kung Fu Hustle in terms of just the importance of, even though it's a blockbuster movie, it has this significance about it that I think is just worth enjoying, and it's just worth watching just to see what it's about and what the characters go through. It's just one of those great experiences you can't miss out on. So that's been my gut reaction for RRR, Rise, Roar, and Revolt. So I hope you've had a good time. I had a great time watching it. I don't care if you like, or I don't even want you to like or comment my video. I don't care. Whatever. I'm doing this as a fun thing on the side. My real dream is to make movies myself. I make this podcast because this is what I think about when I watch movies. I love watching commentaries and interviews and figuring out why the filmmaker does what they do in the first place. So I think most people can catch those things and get those things off the ether, but I just love hearing what the filmmaker has to say. Although I love a good review, I think what the filmmaker has to say is way more important. I think that is more important than any review you're ever going to hear about any movie. Is why the filmmaker does what they do. But I watch that stuff so that if I'm lucky, I can hopefully catch the movie and appreciate those levels that it tries to present, and not be too hankered down on what I personally like, because if I made this movie, there'd be freaking a robot somewhere in there at some point, or some kind of cool gadget. But still, it's such a fantastic movie. It's so well made. Only these people could have made it in that correct combination at that time period. They just made the right choices. But the fact that we have this amazing shot where one of our heroes is in his tribal gear and he's got a bow and arrow, and then they're using these searchlights, which motivates an epic silhouette of them with the bow and arrow. And it's so beautiful and yet symbolic, and at the same time very cheesy, because it's a very epic but kind of cheesy image. But it still gets you because you're like, no, this is this guy in his true form. That is incredible. That the fact that the hype moments get you there so well, you gotta watch this movie for the experience by itself. It's just worth watching. I love it when movies do that, when they be semi-real. It's hyper real, but there's a semi reality to it where you feel like the real world does exist, even though these people are fantastic. And whenever they use real things to motivate visuals like that, I'm like, now we're talking. Like again, when in The Dark Knight, when he has that little flip over view visor that pops over his eyes inside of his mask that gives him that, you know, daredevil view of things in the dark so he can see at any time. That is a real life mechanism justifying the comic book image of Batman having white eyes. Because in the comic, he has white eyes. Why? You know, why does he not just have normal eyes? I guess he has a visor or something. But those real world motivations for something totally fantastic and not necessary, but it creates a beautiful image, that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm all about. Because it happened naturally, but it also is fantastic. And also, there's a fight where our hero Beam picks up a motorcycle and just smacks a bunch of people with it. Like his power is clearly motorcycles, because if it's a motorcycle, he can do anything with it. So watch this movie to see what this dude does with this motorcycle, because even if I'm telling you this, it's not the same as just watching him go bam, bam, bam. It's like the Hulk smashing Loki around. It's amazing. Watch this movie. I can't say any more. Uh, SS Rajamouli and team, mwah, just 10 stars, 10 golf claps, 7 golf claps. I don't have a rating system yet, but damn, hats off to the whole cast and crew. Man, the acting is fantastic, the direction's fantastic, lighting, cinematography, uh, production design, costumes, cast, everyone is great. And watching not my favorite Punisher get his comeuppance for that movie. I'm sorry. Now you hate me. This is why I say I don't care if you like, because I don't like things that you like. So, and I like some things that you don't like, and I'm just gonna be honest about it. And whatever. But I did not like Punisher Warzone. I can't get through that movie. I'm so sorry. I know there's a lot of people who think it's the superior movie. I totally disagree. So watching Ray Stevenson get what he deserves for that movie is good for me. I was just kidding. He does, you know, he was good. The cast was good. I just didn't like the movie. I just had to say that because really I do think Thomas Jane's Punisher is way freaking better than that movie. I think you people who say that the otherwise are just, you know what? That's a taste thing. That's a taste thing. I'm not talking about anything else. We just have different tastes on that one. You are fine with what happened in that movie because there was more violence. I totally understand that. I just don't think it's a better movie by any stretch of the imagination. I still think Ang Lee's Hulk is a far better movie than The Incredible Hulk. But at least The Incredible Hulk is more entertaining. But this movie, RRR, does both. It's incredibly entertaining and it's a great story with a lot of deep values and meanings. It does Hulk and Incredible Hulk at the same time and makes you happy. It's good. It's a good. It's a good. It's the incredible storytelling of the Dark Knight trilogy with the incredible visuals of the Batman, which everyone agrees, maybe I'm not going to talk about the Batman other than that, okay? But then, yeah, you got the very well done thing and the very beautiful thing, and they meet in the middle with RRR. So go see this movie. It's so good. I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'm just going to keep going.